Okay, welcome everyone. Again, I'm Christine Biglin from St. Mary's County Library, and we very much appreciate you joining us tonight. We are here with Barb Whipkey, who is the owner of the Wild Birds Unlimited store in Lexington Park and LaPlata. And tonight we are going to hear about catching cousins, which is all about chickadees, titmice, and nuthatches. Welcome, Barb.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for taking time away to join us tonight. I'm excited about this subject. One, because we picked the absolute perfect time. I was talking to Christine before we got started. We picked the perfect time to schedule this one because if you've been watching your feeders, you have seen lots of activity there. And the birds we're going to talk about, you have seen them at your feeder grabbing food and taking off. And they may stop, nibble a little bit, and then they're just gone, back and forth all day long, busy, busy. And they are caching that food away. They are getting ready for winter. Nature has not been very helpful to them this spring and summer. Spring, it was actually good to them. We had a wet spring, but then things just kind of went blah from there. So your feeders are more important than ever this year. So that's why you have not been able to keep your feeders full. They are a little more dependent on your feeders than they normally would be. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and we're going to get started talking about these little guys. Okay, caching cousins. So who are they? The chickadee, the titmice, and the nuthatch. And they actually are not all related. Chickadee and titmice are from the same family. The nuthatch is actually from a different family. However, their behaviors are very similar. If you provide food, and we'll go over the foods you want to be offering, you can provide the same foods and you will make best of buddies with all of them. So although they're not from the same family, you're going to be able to satisfy all of their needs with the same foods. They're probably the most familiar of your backyard birds. They're pretty easy to identify, very easy to attract. The left one is the Carolina chickadee. If you think you have the black-capped chickadee, if your parents, grandparents told you you have the black-capped chickadee, if you're here in Southern Maryland, they fib to you. You have the Carolina chickadee. Further up, Western Maryland, up in the mountains and that, you may have Carolina chickadee, black-capped chickadees up there. But here in Southern Maryland, it's safe to say that the chickadees you're seeing are Carolina chickadees. In the center there is your tufted titmouse. And then on the right is your white-breasted nuthatch. They have been a little elusive from our feeders the last couple years. We haven't been seeing much of them at the feeders. They've been around, but not as plentiful as they are right now. Right now, they are almost as prevalent as our feeders as those chickadees and titmice are, because they are really realizing that they need to get ready for fall. Whether it's because of the shortage of food, whether they have a clue what winter's going to bring, I'm not sure of that, but they are definitely busy at our feeders right now. All three are year-round residents. First one we're going to dig into is the good old Carolina chickadee. They have excellent coping tactics to survive this winter. They cache those foods, and they're actually able to remember where they're hidden, unlike those squirrels that store things away, and once they're out of sight, they've forgotten exactly where they put them. A chickadee will cache about 200 seeds in a single day. The really cool thing with them is every seed is going to be cached in a different location. So you may see them grab 2 or 3 seeds at a time and take off with them, but each of those will be put in a different location. They are going to all be stored about 130 feet from your bird feeders. So why would you not want to have those bird feeders full right now with food for those to cache away? Because this winter, when your yard is looking boring and dreary and it's cold outside, You just created backyard entertainment for you, because that also means those chickadees are going to stay 130 feet from those backyard feeders. So you just created that entertainment for your yard. They're going to use knot holes, even shingles sometimes. You'll catch them on sheds, houses, things like that, storing those little seeds. Peanuts are another one, peanut splits. They love, love, love to cache peanut splits away. Barks of trees, things like that is where you're going to catch them hiding them. If you can spend some time watching your feeders, you'll actually be able to catch them caching those seeds away. The cool thing is that they remember exactly where they put them, and they do that by using landmarks and the sun compass orientations to remember where they have put those. They also can remember whether they have emptied a cache or whether somebody else has emptied that cache. So they know not to bother to return to that one because they've already taken care of that one. If they notice that you are watching, so if you're sitting out there in your lawn chair, they're going to stop caching it away. So if you are out there, you want to kind of make it a little less obvious that you're staring them down, or they will stop caching seed away. So kind of, la-di-da, make it a little less obvious what you're doing so that they will continue working and you can catch what's going on. They are extremely smart and tricky in what they're doing. Chickadees will nest mainly in rotten trees or nest boxes. So when customers walk in our store and ask for a nest box, unless they are set on one certain type of nest box, I will always direct them toward a bluebird box. The reason is a bluebird, chickadee, titmice, and Carolina wren can all nest in a bluebird box. So you're going to increase your chance of somebody nesting in that box by putting up a bluebird box. They also can excavate a nest out of a tree if it's a rotten softwood tree. They can't excavate hardwood, and they can't excavate a hole out of a living tree. They line those nests with moss, pine needles, and we'll even use fur, typically rabbit, deer. We no longer recommend using pet hair. We used to say put your pet hair out there, but now we're using chemicals, shampoos, things like that on our pets. So we no longer recommend that. When a chickadee builds a nest, it's going to take about 3 to 4 days for that female to build her nest. She'll lay an average of 7 eggs. She's going to lay 1 each day. When she has a full clutch of about 7 eggs, that's when she will start setting on that. And then she's going to set on those eggs for 12 to 13 days before they will hatch. One cool little thing about chickadees, they have a yellow mouth, and that's to help the parents find them in the nest. Mostly they are going to feed caterpillars. So this is where it's really important to discourage your neighbors and friends from spraying those pesticides, because they need those caterpillars to feed their young. You can also offer live mealworms just like you would with the bluebirds. They will also use those live mealworms to feed their young. After about 16 days in the nest box, those young are going to fledge, and then they'll stay together as a family unit for about 3 to 4 weeks before those babies are going to kind of separate from the parents and start doing their own thing. During the winter months, another thing you've probably started noticing is that when you see a chickadee, you may also see multiple chickadees, multiple nuthatches, titmice, other birds. They are right now forming what we call a foraging guild for the winter, or a winter flock. So typically a foraging guild is going to be about 6 to 10 members. Those birds who mate for life, like our chickadees, they will stay together as a part of that guild, and they're going to hang out together for the winter. In the chickadee guild, you might find nuthatches, titmice, woodpeckers, kinglets, and creepers in their guild. The benefits, there's more eyes to look around if you've got a hawk or something preying on them. There's more birds to look for food and find more food sources. So all of a sudden, you put up a new feeder, there's more people to, or birds, to find that feeder out there. And they start to learn the alarm calls of the other birds. So instead of just learning the alarm call of a chickadee, they're going to learn the alarm call of all of those other species of birds. So even if there's a titmice off over this way that's not a member of their forest guild, foraging guild, they're going to hear that alarm call and know to react to that as an alarm call. So winter, they don't have all those leaves on the tree, so they need all the help they can do to help protect themselves. The hawks in the, right now in the summer and that, there's more lizards, there's frogs, there's other things more plentiful to eat. As we go into winter, when those frogs and lizards and things become less plentiful, the hawks have to resort to finding other things to eat. So it becomes more important that the birds stick together, the songbirds stick together and help look out for each other. So chickadees will not, or any of the birds we're going to talk about tonight, will not become dependent on our feeders. But studies have shown that their survival rate doubles when they have access to feeders at temperatures below 10 degrees. So although we typically, fortunately, don't get that cold here in Southern Maryland, it does help to have those. Studies have shown that just having those feeders are going to give them a helping hand. That same study showed that those birds with access to feeders laid eggs about 11 days earlier. Some of the foods to offer for the chickadees would be the mealworms that we discussed. As we go into the winter, it doesn't have to be live mealworms. Dry mealworms are just fine. If you've used our bark butter or our bug and bits that have the if I can get this out, the bark butter bits with the mealworms in it, that works just fine. Suet is a huge help to all of the birds, not only the ones we're going to talk about, but any of them. If you took a break from feeding suet, now is definitely the time to get that suet out. Obviously, we've all noticed it has turned cold the last couple of days, and it looks like it's just going to continue. So definitely think about getting a suet cake out there to them. Safflower is another seed. Safflower is a little white seed. A lot of you may be most familiar with it as a problem-solving seed when you're having problems with the grackles and the blackbirds. But it also has a high oil content, so it is helpful that way. Shelled peanuts. All three of these birds love, love, love to cache away shelled peanuts. That's peanuts with no shells on them. And then sunflower seeds are another good one. The chickadees prefer the in the shell or out of the shell. So you can use we have some blends, and I'm sure you can get them other locations as well. But look for blends that have maybe some of either the chips or the black oil, safflower mixed in there. You can buy all these individual, blend them up yourself, or buy the blends that have it all mixed together. If you shop with us, Tree Nutty Plus is one of my favorites to use. I will put it, this is my absolute favorite feeder for putting the Tree Nutty in. So if you have a feeder that has the larger square holes in this, it's a great one for putting the Tree Nutty Plus, which has all of those things in it. But there's a lot of different blends that you can get that will have those ingredients. Most important right now too is water. Even though we have had some rain, all of the birds, wildlife still need water. So keep a bird bath or two going right now for all the birds, preferably all winter long if you're able to. You can put a bird bath with a de-icer. You just need access to water. Unfortunately, there are no solar bird baths. We just don't get enough sun in the winter time to build up the solar to keep it defrosted. So you would need access to electricity for that. Bathing is not only important or water is not only important for drinking, but also for bathing. They have to keep those feathers clean because they puff them up for insulation. So definitely when you're planning, you're setting your yard up, think about water and water year long. And then the next is the tufted titmouse. Just like the chickadee, it is also a scatter hoarder. So they're going to take those peanuts or whatever they are caching away, and they're going to put them in multiple locations. To remember where they have put them, they're going to cache them away, and then they're going to stand and stare at that location to burn it into their memory. A tufted titmouse, when they come up and look at your tray full of food, they're going to choose the largest sunflower in your tray, and that's going to be the one they take off with. They're typically only going to take one seed at a time when they go with it. One neat thing about, I didn't mention this on the chickadee, but sometimes with the chickadee, they're going to grab that little peanut and they're going to sit there and nibble at it a little bit, and then they're going to go off and cache the rest of it away. A tufted titmouse is not going to do that. They may come, they may eat part of the peanut, but they're going to drop that one, and then they're going to pick up a whole peanut and take off with that one, and that will be the one they cache away. They're not going to cache away a partially eaten one. They are going to do the same thing, hide them 130 feet from the feeders. So again, I can't express enough how important it is. Keep those feeders going now because you're setting up your winter activity right now. They typically are going to hide theirs under the loose bark as well, but mostly they prefer loose bark and trees is their preferred place to hide them. And also on the tops of branches, they will put them. And sometimes on the ground, you'll catch them down in the ground hiding theirs. They are very dependent on their caches during an ice storm. Their foraging guild is pretty much the same as the chickadee was. The creepers, the kinglets, the woodpeckers, chickadees, and nuthatches. And then a cool little thing to watch for at your feeders. Who is the top mouse? So watch your feeders. They have already created those little foraging guilds. So watch tomorrow when you see multiple titmice out there. Look for the one that has their crest up. That's the leader of the pack. The less dominant or submissive one is going to be the one that has the crest down. The dominant will have the crest up. So watch for that. The benefit of being the dominant is obviously going to have the better food supply. It's going to be safer from the predator. That's just going to be the ones that are in charge. The typical hierarchy in the tufted titmouse pack is going to be the older males followed by the young males, and then the older females followed by the younger females will be the low girls on the totem pole there. Titmice will have one brood a year, and although they typically will nest high in trees, they do love to use those bluebird houses as well to nest in. They love to take hair right off of your dogs. So if you are sitting out there with your dogs, they will come and grab that right off there. They also won't hesitate to extract some hair straight off of your head if it's there and they choose to have it. If you want to pop on YouTube and look for videos, you will find videos of them doing this. They just, as shy of birds as they typically are, I don't know why they are so brave about doing that, but they definitely do. Typically, they're going to lay 3 to 9 eggs, and they are very protective of their nest. So if you come around their nest when they're nesting, they will actually hiss at you when they are nesting. If you come in to check their nest, the female's going to be the only one to set on those eggs, and she will set for 13 days. Just like that chickadee, she's going to lay 1 egg a day until she has that full clutch. And then she's going to set on them for about 13 days until they hatch. When they're feeding, they are feeding about every 3 to 4 minutes. And it's, again, mostly insects, spiders, and caterpillars. So here I am again saying, please don't spray pesticides on your yard. That's the food that they are most dependent on. But they definitely will feed your live mealworms if you offer live mealworms. And then those young leave the nest at about 16 days. Feeders truly help with the winter survival, and it's a lot of the same foods, and you're going to find that over with all 3 of these birds that we talk about tonight. So if you really offer some of the sunflower either in the shell or out of the shell, peanuts out of the shell, and safflower. You can see that's the peanut feeder. That's similar to the one I was trying to show you here with those openings that you could put the peanut splits in. If you offer some of those foods, you are offering some great resources for them to store up. An important thing is to leave dead snags whenever you can. That's going to be helpful for the titmouse. And it's going to be extremely helpful for the nuthatches as well. So if you've got a tree that dies and breaks off, if it's in a location where it's not going to come down on your house or your car, and you can leave that broken tree and just let it decay and become a home for some of these birds, that's really helpful. It really hurts when, we go into a neighborhood and we leave a woodlot here and a woodlot here, but we clean out everything between, because a titmouse will not cross from this woodlot across a clear path to this woodlot. So when we clear all the woodlots around him, that titmouse now is going to stay in that woodlot. So it's really important whenever possible to not clear cut all the way around those woodlots. And again, there it is. Spraying for those insects and caterpillars are taking away natural food sources. Nuthatches. Okay, so we're going to mostly talk about the one on the left here. That's the white-breasted nuthatch. That's the one we see predominantly here in Southern Maryland year-round. If you live south of the base, you may get the brown-headed nuthatch regularly. And sometimes, if you're lucky, Christine, you may get the brown-headed in other locations here in Southern Maryland. Rarely do you get the brown-headed nuthatch up in Charles County. It really tends to be a Southern St. Mary's County, down in the pine forests and that down there. It's a cute, cute little bird. The red-breasted nuthatch, we are only fortunate enough to get those on eruption years like this year. So this year, the red-breasted nuthatches are going to probably be coming to spend the winter with us. I've already had one at my feeder this year. They are super cool little nuthatches, and they are not afraid of you. The first time I ever had one at my feeder, my husband and I were both out filling up the feeders. We were hanging the feeders, and this little bird flew into the pole between us, And we just froze thinking, both of us thinking, oh, he doesn't know we're here. And then we quickly realized, no, he knew we were here. He just didn't care. He was badder than we were. They are really, really cute little birds. They sound like a dog squeaky toy. I'm hearing them everywhere in the woods. I was at a soccer game up in Waldorf, so Charles County, I know they're up there too. I was at a soccer game up there last week, and I could hear them all over in the woods up there. So they're not making themselves their presence known a lot at the feeders yet, but they are definitely here. Like I said, I did have one come to my cylinder feeder. So they're here and they're going to be pushing into the feeder soon. But tonight we're going to focus mainly on the nuthatches, but I will tell you everything the white-breasted nuthatch eats and the chickadee and titmouse, the red-breasted and the brown-headed will also eat. So these are what is known as the upside down bird because you are going to see them crawling upside down on your trees. The first time I ever saw them, I was like, what the heck is going on onto the bark on that tree? They walk upside down. They don't hop like woodpeckers do. The male will have an entire black crown and the female will have a gray crown. They live typically about 9 years. You are hearing them out there right now in your yards. I can promise you they have kind of a honking sound. If you use the Merlin app for sound ID, turn it on tomorrow and go out, and I bet you are going to hear it out there. You'll quickly watch it and you'll quickly be able to ID the sound of that bird. It's a very unique sounding bird. And the first time you see it, you'll never not be able to visually ID it again either. It's just very unique. A study was done and it was found that the white-breasted nuthatch actually prefers to cache away sunflower chips out of the shell because they can cache them away much quicker. So with this one, you don't want the black oil sunflower. You want the sunflower chips that's already shelled. I got a bag. I did not grab one, but your black oil without the shells, if you use our winter blend, any of our no mess blends, any sunflower chips will work for them. But they prefer those just because they can cache them away much quicker. They're a scatter hoarder as well, meaning they're going to put one in each location. They're going to, I mentioned, listen for them in the morning because that's when they're busiest. So you're going to have to get up early tomorrow just to hear the nuthatches. They're busiest in the morning, and as the day goes along, their activity is going to slow off. So I notice when I'm out in the evening, I don't hear them as much. But first thing in the morning, they are as busy as can be. They use natural cavities. Rarely do they nest in boxes. The female is going to build the nest and incubate that alone. She'll sit on those eggs for about 12 to 14 days, but both mom and dad will feed. They will leave the nest about 16 days. After 2 to 3 weeks, the babies will completely leave mom and dad's territory. And then that's another picture of that feeder I was showing you there for putting the peanut splits in. A friend in need. This is one, as I mentioned, they don't typically use birdhouses. So this is one where those snags of trees, if you can leave those for those to decay, that they can use them for nesting spots, it's extremely helpful for them. And again, the foods for them, suet, sunflower seed, preferred not with the black oil shells on those, but something already shelled, bark butter, peanuts, any type of sunflower blend. When we say a sunflower blend, that's going to be something with the chips in it. And then we're just going to review those birds. So up there on the left, that's the Carolina chickadee, not the black-capped. On the right is your tufted titmouse. Down at the bottom left is the brown-headed nuthatch. Center is your white-breasted nuthatch. And down in the bottom is your red-breasted nuthatch. So the only time we see the brown or the red-breasted nuthatch is on an eruption year. So I wanted to make sure I had a little bit of time to talk about that. An eruption year is when there is a shortage of food in the Northeast. Just like there's a shortage of food here because of the drought, our birds are busy at our feeders. There's also a shortage of food in the Northeast. So we will see some birds this year that we don't always get. One will be the red-breasted nuthatch. Another is the purple finch. A lot of people think they have purple finches all year long. You don't. What you've been seeing is house finches. The ones with the red is the male house finch. What you will see arriving will be purple finches. These ones will actually have kind of a rosy purple tint to them. Looks like it's going to be a little rounder, where your house finch is a slimmer bird. These are going to be a little rounder, have more of a chocolate than that tan color, and will look like somebody dipped them in raspberry paint. Just dipped them in and then picked it up and let it drip back off. So that's the male purple finch. The female won't have any purple on her, but she's going to have a rounder body than the sleek, slim house finch. We always say to people, once you've seen your first purple finch, then you'll know the difference. So just watch for those to come. We may potentially even see evening grosbeaks this year, which is kind of an unusual one. A couple years ago, we had a few scattered throughout the Tri-County area, but it's looking like we may see them in better numbers this year. Pine siskins may bless us with their presence. We did have those, I think that was 2 or 3 years ago, and they came in crazy numbers when they came. So we may see them as well. We're going to have an excessive number of blue jays this year. There's a shortage of food for them in the Northeast. So there are going to be large flocks of those moving down here. So we're in for an awesome winter of bird watching. So now's the time to get those feeders full and make sure everything's clean and ready to host your visitors, because when they get here, they're going to be looking for food and water. So you want to make sure that they pick your yard and not head to your neighbor's yard. So now's the time to get everything, it's still a little warm out there. Take the time to get your feeders all cleaned and set up and ready. And I'm going to take this off screen share, maybe, and then we'll take some time to see what questions you have. Christine?
Sorry, let me unmute myself. Okay, so Sam actually said that they have a whole colony of brown-headed nuthatches in their neighborhood, and they're his favorite bird of all time.
Where are you, Sam?
At this point, if people want to unmute themselves oh yeah, go ahead.
I'm actually across the bay in Salisbury right now.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
But we've got a whole bunch of those what are the pine trees that loblollies, and they seem to really like those.
Yes, exactly. Nice. They are cute little birds.
And they sound adorable.
They do, yes. Very cool. Yeah, you definitely should probably get pine siskins over there. So the question with pine siskins, those that do migrate are expected to come down the East Coast. So that's the questionable area, where down the East Coast they're going to come to, but you should definitely over there see them.
How exciting.
Yeah, they're fun. And sunflower chips and finch and Niger is a good one for them.
Okay. Sandy asked if we can help the birds cache by putting seeds and peanut splits into the tree bark or crooks of trees.
No, because they wouldn't know where to find them. So we need to just put them in the trays, in the feeders, and let them find them and store them away.
Let them do a little bit of the work.
Exactly, right.
Uh, okay. Let's see. Kathleen had a question about bluebirds. So do you see them in the fall is the question. Like, do they migrate in and out or stay all year?
You know what? I'm so glad you asked that. So bluebirds have been absent, MIA, for about 6 weeks. Last week, they reappeared because they are now looking for their winter roosts. So if you didn't clean out your houses after the last nesting, I need you tomorrow to get those houses all cleaned out. They're going to be looking for food, shelter, water. That's how they're going to decide if they nest in your yard, or I'm sorry, if they winter over in your yard or if they winter over in your neighbor's yard. So a whole family will live communally. This is bluebirds we're talking about. They're going to live communally in a bluebird house over the winter. So they will just pile up on top of each other for warmth. So get those houses cleaned out because they would prefer not to live in those dirty houses with the nasty nest in there. So just go in, pull that out. As long as it's not really nasty, you can just use a paintbrush and, just brush it out. If it is dirty, a little bit of bleach and water solution, 1 part bleach, 9 parts water, spray it good, rinse it out, and then let it stand open to dry. Then close it back up for them. Try to do that early in the day so it will be dry by evening. I haven't looked at what the temperatures are in the evening the next couple nights, but I know that already people are having bluebirds and downy woodpeckers that are roosting in houses overnight. So I would prefer you do it early in the day, have it closed back up by bedtime.
Okay. Oh, and I told Barb beforehand, I just cleaned out my bird feeder, so I was pretty happy about that because you mentioned that like it really does make a difference to keep them clean. Okay. Sam is asking, is there just one kind of titmouse in Maryland?
There is, yeah, just the tufted titmouse is what we have.
And there's no difference between the male and female?
No, you can't tell the difference.
Okay. Well, they can tell because they have that pecking order, right? Of like
Right,
who's on top.
exactly.
The
Yes,
one with
and everybody's
the
gonna
one
be
with the
watching if you
flag.
got crest
Yeah.
up or crest down tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I didn't know they had a little flag system going.
Right.
Uh, okay. Well, if anyone else has a question, please type it in our chat, or you can just unmute yourself if that's easier. Um, you mentioned peanut splits. Is that
Yeah.
just
So that is peanuts that's out of the shell and then it's split in half. You know, when you take a peanut and it's split out. And that's just, it's just a more convenient size for them to carry in that. I will tell you that tufted titmice love, love, love peanuts in the shell. They love to eat those. They'll take a whole peanut and eat them. But right now, for what they're doing for caching them away, they're using the peanut splits. Or you'll see them just shelled peanuts either way. But yeah, peanuts, you can offer peanuts in the shell. That's a favorite food of the blue jays, and the tufted titmice love them that way. But right now, what we want to be offering is the shelled peanuts or the peanut splits. You have a question, Vicki?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. I can't figure out how to type. I'll figure it out. I only have one bluebird house because you can't put them too close together. But what you were just saying, would I be better putting up a couple more and some of the other birds would be using it this winter too?
Yeah, that is exactly what I do. Because my yard is very wooded, so I don't have the space I know that I'll never have several nesting pair of bluebirds, but I probably now have 9 or 11 bluebird houses. I get one nesting pair in the front yard and one in the backyard. Your best chance in that case, when you want more bluebirds, but you don't have the distance, you can try putting them out of sight of each other. But I put up more bluebird houses knowing that a bluebird won't let another pair of bluebirds nest there, but they will let chickadees, titmice, Carolina wrens, because their primary diet isn't the same. So I'll have bluebirds nesting right here, and right over there is a chickadee, and there's a titmouse, and there's Carolina wrens. And every year this happens. I'm just walking all around the yard checking houses. That was a great question, by the way.
So Joanne asked, when do these birds typically have their babies? Like you said, how long they sit on the nest, but when exactly were they hatching?
Right. So the first nesters of the year are our bluebirds, and they start nesting, and they're going to start looking for their nest boxes for nesting in February. So when somebody asks me, when is the best time to put up a bluebird house? I say yesterday. And that's because they're going to be using them for roosting as well. So what happens, that group that roost in that nest box, come February, one of those pair that are in that nest box says to the rest of them, you're out of here. This is our house. So the rest get kicked to the curb, and that becomes their nesting box. Right after the bluebirds start nesting, within just a couple weeks, our chickadees and our titmouse and Carolina wrens all start nesting. So it's typically March for the other birds, late February for the bluebirds.
And I think as far as it getting started depends a little on conditions, right? Like sometimes it's a little earlier or a little
Yeah, they
later.
rushed it this
Oh,
past year. Yeah, this
okay.
last past year, the bluebirds rushed it, and we had a lot of failed nests. Remember, spring tried to come really early last year.
Mm,
And so the bluebirds started nesting early. Then we had a good freeze, and so there were a lot of failed nests. Fortunately, a lot of them then nested again. They realized that the nests were failed and abandoned them. So they were still, bluebirds nest 3 times during the summer.
mm.
So at least in my yard, they still did 3 more nests after that failed one.
Oh, but the 3 birds we were talking about today, they just nest once each, or
Yeah, they all do nest. All 3 of them are just one.
just once? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So if they start too early, that can be kind of a bigger deal, I guess.
Yeah, so fortunately for them, they don't tend to rush it. It's typically our bluebirds that rush the things. And fortunately for them, they have multiple nests. So it's typically all works out with them. Them and the cardinals will sometimes rush it, but again, in Carolina wrens, but all of them that tend to rush it because they're going to fit multiple nestings in. So it's funny how nature does this.
Mhm.
They rush it because they, their whole job is to keep their species going. So they got to get in there and reproduce. So then if they started too early and it fails, well, fortunately, those are the ones that reproduce several times throughout the year. So they tend to make it up on the end of the year. Cardinals, if you remember, were having nests in Carolina wrens way late into the summer this year. And our best guess is because those first batches probably failed.
Mm. Okay. Does all work out.
I know. Nature's
Okay.
amazing.
It sure is. Sandy has a question about the bird houses. What direction should the opening be for a birdhouse for roosting? Is it the same as for nesting?
Yeah, so we don't focus as much on the direction as we used to. You would want to try to avoid the prevailing winds, whichever direction that is in your yard. So if your yard is, if you're on the water, don't put that hole facing the water. So just kind of pay attention to your yard because everybody's yard is going to be a little different in the way it's designed. So it's not as easy to just say anymore. Pay attention to your yard and try to keep it sun facing toward it the best part of the day for roost if you're using it for roost. If you have it on our poles, they can be just turned. You can loosen the thumb screw and turn it a little bit if you need to. And then for summer, you can turn it back around so that you don't have it in the sun, with the sun directly in there. So that is an advantage if you have a house that's on a pole like that can be relocated. So, but yeah, try to keep it from the wind blowing straight directly into it, and a little bit of warmth would be nice if you can get some sun shining toward the hole for the winter only, not for the summer.
Okay. And you probably want to have the opening in a place you can see it from your window.
At least for nesting period is really helpful. Roosting, honestly, you're not going to see them because for roosting, they go in at sunset and they're usually back out early in the morning. So for roosting, you don't typically get to enjoy it like you do the nesting.
Okay. Kathleen has a question about peanuts in the shell. Is it a good idea to break them slightly to make it easier for the titmice to carry?
Nope. Nope. Those titmice are amazing the way they can do it. They will pop a little pinhole in it. If they need to, they'll pop a little pinhole in it and carry it that way. But most of the time, they can carry that whole thing. It's amazing to see it happen.
I know it looks bigger than their head.
I know, it really does. I mean, we're used to seeing blue jays do it, but yeah, if they get one that's too big, they'll just pop a little pinhole and stick their beak inside and carry it that way. But nope, they've got it all figured out.
Do any birds actually eat the shells of the seeds, or they always just
I don't
crack
think
them
so.
open?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's always just the peanut inside.
Yeah, it is neat how their different beaks are made for eating different types of food so that they can get into the thing that,
Exactly.
right
If
for
you
them.
see a bird with a pointed beak, that's a sign that they're an insect eater. So if you think like your woodpeckers and things like that, those are insect eating birds. And those are going to be the ones that you're going to make sure you're putting suet out for.
Okay, that is all the questions that we have. So we are taking a little bit of a break. We don't have a program in November or December. Those are, pretty busy times for everybody. So our next program will be in January. It's going to be January 23rd, and it's going to be about winter bird feeding. So I think that's everything that we have for tonight, Barb. Thank you so much for doing this topic for us. It was really a lot of fun to learn about the little catching birds.
Absolutely.
Okay, and thank you all for joining us tonight. We always appreciate you taking some time out of your day. And thank you again, Barb. It's always a pleasure.
Yep, sure thing. Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everybody.